Hello and welcome to the Monday Masterclass with the Maine group. I'm Mita Sani and I'm joined by Carly Stevens today. Hi, Carly.
Hi, Mita. Hello, everybody.
Really good to have everyone on board, and apologies for being a couple of minutes late. We've had some accessibility and tech issues, but hopefully we're good to go now. We're covering everything around restructure today. And Carly, every organisation has been through some sort of restructure, haven't they?
Absolutely. I think that's a really key point, is that whilst this is really useful for organisations who've been through a redundancy process, everyone's been through change and some sort of restructure. So I think this is relevant for all organisations at the moment.
I mean, even just working from home is a restructure. I mean, you think pre-pandemic, if an organisation were to say to their people, right, from tomorrow we're all going to be, or even from a month now, we're all going to be working from home, that would be a major change in the organisation and would normally be managed so meticulously and carefully, because going through change is very similar for people in an organisation to grief in real life. There are stages of denial, there are stages of confusion and frustration and anger. And it's only through managing change that organisations can really limit the impact of this change on their people and the negative scenarios that might arise from that.
It's so true. And not only has change happened, but it's happened practically overnight. Normally, this sort of change would take months, even years to happen. And it's all just happened so quickly. So I think everybody has experienced a bit of some form of trauma in a way. And that's what I think today will be really helpful for.
Yeah, very much so. And one of the things we know about the change curve is that, again, if change isn't managed and really planned, it will take longer. There'll be more negative consequences. And these consequences will be things such as a disengaged team, drop in profitability, loss of talent from your world. There'll become management challenges. And ultimately, the organisation will not be thriving and achieving any of the objectives that they're supposed to be aiming for. We've got enough challenges on our hands. So if today, in the next 30 to 40 minutes, Carly and I can bring you some structure around how to manage the restructuring in your world and to really help your people improve their morale, their energy, and therefore productivity, then hopefully we're doing something right today.
Absolutely.
Now, just on the chat box on your right, you will see that we've put in there that it's a Q&A session. We really want you to share any comments or thoughts that you might have so that we can make sure that the next 30 to 40 minutes are relevant for you. We've also started a poll, and thank you for your input on this. So our question in the poll today is, what has been the biggest concern for your employees post-restructure? So interestingly, at the moment, 75% have said economic uncertainty and job security goes with that. So not surprisingly, people are worried for their roles, people are worried for their jobs, and we don't know with any certainty what the next months ahead have in store. So if there's any more control and structure and predictability that you can bring into your employees' workforce and mindsets in the organization, that will help them with having a focus and having something to focus and put their energies towards.
That's so true. Uncertainty is a massive cause of stress and anxiety. So anything that we can do as organisations to limit the uncertainty will therefore help to limit the stress and anxiety.
Yeah. And of course, loss of teammates is 25% of the feedback. And again, it's this losing friends, the shock of losing people in the organisation. No one's actually said increased workload. I know for some organisations, people are thinking, well, if half my team are gone, that means I'm going to have to do the work, but that doesn't seem to be here because there are bigger problems at play, aren't there?
Absolutely. I think the loss of teammates thing is a really huge issue. There's something called survivor syndrome, which a lot of people experience, particularly after a redundancy scenario. The individuals who are left in the team, instead of feeling, oh, great, I've still got my job, quite often that's not their feeling at all. They often feel guilty, they often feel insecure. And that's something that it's really important to address. And that's what some of the things we'll touch on today.
Yes, I'm looking forward to doing that. And ultimately, the change curve ends with decision. So the team choosing that, yes, they want to be part of the future of your world, and then integration. So really, the tools that Carly and I are going to discuss today around how to restabilize your workforce, how to then restructure and reassure them, and then retrain, is really around helping them integrate faster. Because again, if you manage the change that's happening in your organization at the moment, what you'll find is that you get through the change process quicker. And that means that you can eliminate the risks and the negative consequences of change, and you can create the change faster with your people adopting the change positively and starting to get back to thriving, which is really key.
Absolutely. I think this process is so important, and whether you choose to run a program in-house or get someone external in to do it, there's so many different ways you can do it, but just going through these steps is proven to really, really help boost these motivation levels. And it goes hand in hand. If your individuals and your team are thriving, your business will be thriving.
Yeah. And one of the things that Carly and I have offered and will provide everyone who's attended and signed up for today's webinar is a free checklist, a free restructure checklist, where you as an organization or a leader of your people can check step by step everything we're talking about today to make sure you've got it covered. Now, Carly and I are helping our clients in two ways. One, we're advising and offering the checklist and doing webinars like this, but we're also going into organizations and actually doing the change management process with our clients. So what we're here to do today is to give you an insight into the window of how to restabilize, restructure and retrain. We're also going to be covering off how to motivate your people. So it's all very well giving them the tools, but then how do you give them the belief that they can actually achieve what we are giving them to do? So over the next 30 odd minutes now, that's what Carly and I will do a very whistle-stop tour of. But if you feel that this is something that you need in your organization, then please reach out to us, link to us on LinkedIn, follow us on LinkedIn. We're always posting thought pieces on there. But also, if you think that what we can do would be useful in your world, then give us a call and we can talk about how we can help integrate that into your day-to-day process.
So many organisations are doing a really great job of running this internally. A lot of people we've spoken to have also found that there's a lot of benefit for using an external party for various reasons. So it's all about working out what is right for your organisation.
Yeah. So the first step of this is very much the restabilizing. Put yourself in your employees' shoes. You know, as a senior member of the organisation, you will have been privy to conversations with board. You'll have probably seen the financial director talking about success or challenge or cash flow challenges or feelings of reassurance. You'll know what the future holds, and you'll really be in a position of knowledge and therefore understanding of where the organisation is going and how the organisation is planning to get through these difficult and uncertain times. Your employees don't have that. And so it's really important to think, what must it be like for somebody who just doesn't know what's going on? You know, I mean, we've seen employees leave organisations because they're not sure. Isn't that right, Carl? Tell me what you've seen happening out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. I think leaders often forget that because they're privy to so much information, they forget that their team have got very limited amounts of this information. So communicating is so important because they will walk with their feet because it's more uncertainty. It's not feeling like they're looped in and sure of what's happening.
Yeah. And you would think that in these times, people aren't making that decision, but they are. People are still making the choice to leave organizations where they don't feel completely immersed, supported, and where they don't have clarity on what's going on in their roles. And that's where the Maine Group come in. We help our clients have the best engagement with their people so that they can retain the best talent in their world and go from success to success. So the way we would recommend you do that is by creating a vision. Create a vision for the team to see what is the company plan. It doesn't need to be a long one. It can be a 6-month plan. It can be a 12-month plan. You know, no one's got the 5 years at the moment. What we feel and what we're seeing organizations do is that you organize a 12-month vision for what the company are going to do to get through the pandemic, and then a broader outline, which might look very similar to your pre-COVID business plan of where the business then wants to go. But to really give the company, the people in your organization, a company vision, and then break that down for the managers to do their own team vision, and then to do an individual vision of what the individual's role will look like, will really give them reassurances. And do this by creating workshops, have your teams speak openly, give them open lines of communication, have a two-way street, let them really feel that there is transparency and clarity in everything that you're talking to them about. And then coach them afterwards. Don't just assume because you've explained it once that it's gone in their heads and it's going to stay there. It hasn't. Ultimately, you've been hearing the conversations, you've been part of the decision making, you will be privy to understanding. If these people hear it once, it's not going to go in straight away. So take the time to have touch points, lines of coaching, and really almost like a reintroduction, isn't it, Carls?
Absolutely. It really does take time for change to take effect, and it takes time for people to really hear the message when it is wrapped around a lot of uncertainty and confusion. So I think that's a really key point, to really ensure that people have embedded what they're being told.
Yeah, exactly that. Now, I'll be looking down at my notes because there are some really key points. And I was hoping to have this checklist up on my screen today, but as I said, the technology gods are not in my favor today. So please forgive me if I'm looking down. But that really is all around the restabilization. And with restabilization comes reassurance, because if they know that they are the chosen team, that hopefully you can say we've drawn a line under redundancies now, and we've restructured the team in this way because this is our vision. They can then start to see what skill sets they possess that are going to be pivotal for the organization growing their world going forward. And again, workshops, coaching, everything around their individual roles, I would say would be the next step. After reassuring them about the company goals, I would then say, right, this is your individual goal. Now let's make sure your job description reflects that. Carly, we've been doing a lot of work with our clients doing exactly that at the moment.
I think the job description... Sorry, I lost you for a second there.
I was just saying about, please carry on.
Yeah, the job description aspect is really important here. It's especially important if team members are taking on extra workload as a result of people who have left through a restructure. But it's actually really important to revisit JDs during a change period anyway. I think, as Mita, you said before, what good looked like pre-COVID might be completely different to what it looks like now. And a lot of people might be feeling a lot of stress that they're not doing the role in the same way because the business isn't the same anymore. So revisiting these job descriptions is really crucial. And one thing that can be really useful with the JD revisiting is getting the individuals involved to actually have input into that. One big complaint we hear is from individuals who think that someone in a different department who doesn't really know their role has written their JD and it's been forced upon them. And actually, people do have a huge amount of knowledge about their day-to-day and how long different aspects of it take. So if you can get people's involvement and agreement in the JD rewriting process, then they go away feeling completely in control, that not only do they know their remit, but they know it's doable, it's acceptable, and that it is exactly what their day-to-day should look like.
And then they own it more, don't they? And it becomes their business plan, their job description. And I'm really recommending and encouraging our clients now to not only write the skill set and the tasks, but also write about what the output of that job description is, what the role experience is for their internal customers and external customers. So think about the touch points that this person would have in their organization and what that experience would be. So when you're doing the appraisals, especially because people are remote right now, it's not just going to be about a tick list of achievements and tasks to do, but it's going to be that person predominantly based at home, but still impacting their customers in a really positive way. So don't be afraid to implement output elements, what the expectation is, what the customer experience should be for each area of their role.
That's so key. I think especially for managers, it really helps if you are able to manage your team based on the output that's expected from them and their JD. It means you can look at the outcomes as opposed to watching them do their role day to day, which is practically impossible in a remote environment.
So I've just had a question here about how the output would be measured and the experience would be measured for a role in operations and front of house. What would you say would be, if we were looking at a job description for somebody who's front of house, at the moment, they're not sitting in a reception area, they're not running the operations of the organization and managing front of house. What would their job description look like in terms of skill, in terms of personality fit, and then in terms of customer experience, Carls?
It's a great question, because front of house is one of these roles that has been really impacted. And a lot of people think that, they haven't got anything to do now sometimes, but that's not the case at all. So quite often front of house have got a really pivotal role in answering phone calls coming into the organisation, usually on the switchboard, and they're doing that from home via a mobile where they haven't got access to their usual technology that they would have. So I think it's all about looking at how they've had to change and adapt their role, any new skills that might be different to what they were utilising previously. And then also what good looks like could be ensuring that a certain amount of calls actually do get picked up and transferred through, or messages taken. And also I think making sure that external perception is positive. So you could run customer polls about how people have experienced the front of house service in a remote world.
Yeah. And again, the fact that people are based from home would mean that their customer experience and output element would be, that every customer who calls in gets an upbeat, positive, professional delivery when they pick up the phone. And the internal customers, different members of the organization, different departments, always get a call put through, always get a really clear message. If it's not put through, they will get chased and followed up to see if they've received their role, or whatever good looks like for the organization. And then not only can you poll external customers, but you can also do an internal customer poll. And that can be for any role in the organization, and helps you as a business leader know that all your people are achieving all elements and still delivering it in the way that you want it to be delivered. So the next thing I wanted to cover off, Carl, looking at job descriptions and looking what the roles entail, we would then go on to goals and things like that. How would you factor in some of that?
So I think with goals, it's really important to, as you touched on before, look at short-term and long-term goals. I think what is important and crucial right now will maybe be totally different in 6 months to a year time when the organisation is back to sort of more norming and performing. So it's important to share with individuals what good looks like now and where we want to be in 6 months to a year's time, because they can be very different for a lot of organisations at the moment. And again, it can cause sort of uncertainty and anxiety if people think, oh, I should be achieving this, but I'm not yet. It might just be because that's not the case at the moment. So make it really clear what good looks like now and for the future.
And again, you can bring in specific targets, specific numbers, specific customer experience. It really doesn't have to be reinventing the wheel. You can even pick one key performance indicator for each member of the team. When people are working from home and just getting used to a new environment, you may feel that you don't want to overbear them with too many different parameters of what good looks like. So you may just pick one. But even that in itself would really help that individual really think about, am I adding value, and am I useful to the organization?
Exactly. It does both those things, doesn't it? It cuts out any ambiguity of whether somebody is performing or not. And then it also helps people to feel that confidence. Yeah, I am actually contributing here, and I am, helping the organisation move in the right direction, which is what people crave. And that actually leads really nicely onto the next point. So the next thing we usually cover would be about team alignment. And that's all around ensuring that the whole team are on the same page. Everyone's got shared goals. Everyone knows what they're looking to achieve. They're in it together. And it just means everyone's moving forward in the same direction really positively.
Yeah, because again, with everyone being sort of dispersed around the country, their homes, having each other to hand and knowing how each of you add value makes you value each other more. And when you feel valued, you want to do more, don't you? So aligning and understanding everyone's role into the puzzle and how they fit together is key. And then you can create some team incentives. You can do, I know we can't all go out or anything like that, but you can do prizes. We know of an organization that sends everyone team incentive prizes like cocktails through the post, or flowers, or a coupon for loungewear, or whatever. There are so many different ways of saying thank you and well done to your people, but that still makes them feel like a team.
Exactly. And having those shared goals and incentivizing based on shared goals means people will naturally want to work together. And I think working in silos can be really damaging at the moment, particularly when people are working remotely. So anything you can do to involve the team with each other is really helpful.
Yeah. So we thought about the restructure. We thought about how to reassure and restabilize our people. After that, what comes next? We've got the JD. We know what we need as an organisation. What would you see would come back after the reassuring and restructure phase, Carly?
So I think next it's really important to do a retrain process. I think training is really key here, because a lot of people will have taken on extra responsibilities. It's really important to do a bit of a skills gap analysis. So to have a look at the new JDs, compare them to the previous ones and the previous skills, and see what new skills they might need to learn. In some cases, it might just be they need somebody to show them how a particular system works, or what a process we follow to make sure things happen in the right way. But sometimes it's more than that. Sometimes people might have taken on extra responsibilities. For example, line management might be something that's been asked of them as part of the restructure. And that's a real new skill set. That's a whole new set of skills that people haven't done it before. So that's when you might want to look at more of a formal training program, potentially an external one if you haven't got an in-house program, to just ensure that people have got the skills and they feel supported in the new responsibilities that they're being given.
Yeah, and we've seen that is really popular with our training programs, the business soft skills. Again, not necessarily changing what somebody does, but how they not only deliver the skills that are required, but also getting on well with their teams, being good communicators, handling meetings well, line management where their role has stepped up into supervising and supporting others. And again, I think the need to supervise and support, and not to check on, but check in with people, has increased with this remote working approach. So actually people are, as they're restructuring their roles, getting more levels of responsibility, which is only good for them. It's progressing their careers and expertise.
Exactly. It's great to give people these extra responsibilities, but a massive source of stress is when you give them extra responsibilities, but people don't feel like they've been supported with the extra tools. So really do have a look. Don't underestimate this step. Look at what people need. I think with training as well, I think it's really key that training has got to be the relevant training, and it's got to be when it's desired. Doing enforced training with people rarely works. It's much less likely to be embedded. But when the training is desired and it's timely and it's relevant to something that they're raring to take on, it's usually when it's really well received and embedded well.
Yes, and so the tools around that would be, once you've agreed on what a role looks like, once you've confirmed the job description together, don't be afraid to do a very quick appraisal, a mini appraisal, even a few weeks in, to understand what is working and what isn't. You know, these changes and processes, everyone adopts it differently at different times. Everybody absorbs what good looks like at different stages. So again, don't assume that everyone will take on board what's needed and train and improve the first time. It is a process, it is a journey. Coach them, guide them, support them, and they will appreciate it and give you more than 100% back.
Absolutely, that's so true. This really isn't sort of one size fits all. Every individual is different. Everyone's learning style is different. And the best thing you can do is talk to your people, ask them how they prepare to receive training, ask them when they need the training, really just find out from people what they feel they need, because quite often they're a really good, good indicator of knowing what they need right now.
Indeed. And we've spoken about soft skills. What else would you say is really important in terms of training and support at the moment, Carly?
So I think soft skills are really key. Even things like working in a remote world is a skill that a lot of people are still getting used to. And you could even run refresher courses on that, how to communicate remotely, how to present remotely, as opposed to if you're used to sort of sitting in a room with your team, all of a sudden doing it on Zoom. There's so many different skills. And again, it's all about finding out what people's needs are. And I know some organisations are doing polls. So they're doing a survey asking people what they feel their training needs are. And that way you can pick up on trends and maybe deliver group training, or you might find different people need very different training.
And in terms of resilience and stress, because that, again, is something that we've seen is we had World Mental Health Day just over a week ago on the 10th of October. And actually stress management and resilience, they go hand in hand, don't they?
Absolutely. This has been a massive topic. I think it's really important for leaders, but it's also important to distill throughout the whole organisation. But a lot of the time it's the senior team who are finding they really need this resilience training, and then they're able to cascade it down internally. But stress and resilience are key skills. I think everyone's had to tap into them in the last sort of 7 months or so. And that's something which is really popular at the moment.
Yeah, and that's something that we're offering, and we actually ran a masterclass on just last Monday. So if that is something that you're interested in, please do reach out and we can send you a recording of the little snippet and the window into our trainings offering. And if it's something you feel that you want for your organisation, we can also deliver that face-to-face, Zoom. We are doing all sorts of interesting and creative ways of delivering our training at the moment.
Absolutely. That's the thing. I think it's about saying to people, it's okay to be feeling stressed at the moment. A lot of people are. We want to support you with it. And this is how best you can cope with it.
Yeah. So once we've created an environment for our team to feel that they understand what the future looks like, we get into the space of how to retain them in that space, don't we? Because as an organisation, we've done a restructure, we've decided who we've got to say goodbye to, unfortunately. Then we look at who we want to retain in our world. What would you say are the useful tools in that space, Carly?
Yeah. So, like you say, retention is absolutely crucial at the moment. It's once a restructure has taken place, and you might have unfortunately lost some people, you don't want to lose anybody else. You've got a team in place that's chosen, and so it's really important more than ever to apply these retention tools. So it's about looking at all your usual tools. I mean, one thing that's quite key for retention is looking at salary and benchmarking, and that can be a tricky one at the moment because a lot of people unfortunately have had to downgrade salaries as we've got a budget. And one thing I think is key is if you are downgrading salaries, do have a look at if you can put in place some sort of performance-related bonus or enhancement so that people can maybe make up for whatever they've lost if there's certain criteria are met. And that's a really useful way to say, look, we know this is difficult and we're supporting you through it. And another thing is just to put salary review processes in place and maybe change the timings of them, bring them forward sooner if they're not going to be for a year, in order to show people that we do want to look at this and address it again with you when we can.
Indeed, often, even if there's nothing that you can do, having that conversation with your people and helping them to understand the thinking behind your decisions and to let them know that it is on the horizon gives them a reassurance and something that they want to work towards. So again, I would also say, and again, during the pandemic, I think for the first 6 months we were in survival mode. There definitely seems to feel like a bit of a Dunkirk spirit of, right, we've got to push forward and we've got to get through this. And what we're seeing from organizations and businesses is that they just want to push forward now. So there is a desire to establish what the future will look like for us and to push to get there. So actually things like role planning, succession planning, career progression management for your people, all areas that almost felt like not relevant at the beginning of lockdown, actually are relevant. And these are all topics that we cover and we talk to our clients about how to put into place, because it's key. It's the key retention tool.
Exactly. People want to know what their future looks like. And so if you can get your career progression models up in place, if you can update them now, reassure people that we're still thinking about their development, even at a time when we might not be able to do anything straight away, let them know it is on the agenda. That's really key. And other little things, things that were useful for retention before were things like flexible and agile working. A lot of organisations have had enforced flexible working, as we all know, but what a lot of individuals are saying to us is, I want to know if this is going to be permanent going forward. I want to be able to plan my life around if I'm going to be in the office 5 days or 2. So if you can start maybe formalising some of these processes that we've had to all make up overnight, but really putting in place what the plan is going forward, then people have got that clarity and they know what their world looks like.
Indeed. And to have those touch points to ask them, what is on your mind? This is where you were pre-COVID. This is where we are now. What would you like to continue to have discussed for the future? And we can put it into the agenda for 3 months or 6 months. Then they again feel reassured that they're being listened to, and they'll work so much harder for your organization and stay loyal and ultimately maximize the ROI of your employment of that individual in your world.
Absolutely. Another thing is coaching. As we touched on earlier, people might be given lots of training, upskilling now, but what they might need in 3 months' time is just to sit down and sort of help themselves to refresh and digest what's happened. And any coaching that you can offer them is really, really helpful within that. It might be that they don't need it right now, but they will do in the future. So this is an ongoing thing. You don't just do the process and put it in a drawer. It's all about continuing going forward.
Yeah. And even though we are talking about restructure, and some of that restructure is post-redundancy, we are actually getting busier in the recruitment space as well, aren't we? Carl, give me some reasons why people are recruiting. Tell me what's going on out there in the market with your clients.
Absolutely. So recruitment never completely stopped, but it did definitely slow down a lot. I think now that people have got a lot more clarity of what the business looks like going forward and what the team structure looks like going forward, they are identifying skills gaps. A lot of people had roles pre-COVID that they wanted to hire for and skills gaps they wanted to fill. That was on hold whilst they were grappling with the uncertainty. But a lot of organisations are saying, no, we still need this. This is still a key role for the organisation, and they're going to look to hire that. Periods of leave, like maternity leave, are always being covered, and that's something that we're seeing a real trend for. In fact, so lots of fixed-term contract roles coming in, and people still are moving roles. People are leaving organisations, and there's a lot of having to replace them as well.
Yes, there is still a demand to recruit to replace as well, and also retirement. There are still some individuals who are saying, "This world and this environment isn't for me, and I think I'm going to stop working now." And so the wheels do keep turning. They really do. And as hard as that might have been to imagine 6 months ago, during this second wave, businesses and not-for-profit organisations are looking to find a way to thrive throughout. And that's what we have to do. We have to be the masters of our own destiny. And we hope that the tools that we're providing will help you get there. That's our mission.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of organisations are saying to us, we are recruiting, we haven't got the budget to do it the way we used to, which was to completely outsource it to a provider. So then they're looking to upskill their people in how to recruit. And that's where some people have found our Maine Masterclass training extremely useful as well.
Yes, and I hope that everyone in the audience today has seen that or has had access to it. And I've actually got someone here saying, "Can you send that out to me?" We will. We'll attach the PDF, the one-pager, and maybe even a free taster video for you, for everyone, and something relevant to today's topic as well. These are an e-learning series, which means you always have access to the training, and it's really cost effective because we also know organisations need to be really smart about where they're investing their money. But to train your people internally to be the best at the job that they can be, to help them do it better where you don't want to outsource short term, we're here to support you in all of those areas. And our world has become very much recruitment and retention led, and we will consult with our clients to make sure you get to where you want to get to as quickly as possible and happily as possible.
Exactly. I actually think that there's a lot of the Retain and Develop series from the Masterclass is really useful for what we've been talking about today. It's all about coaching. It's all about feedback. It's all about career progression. All of those things are so key for doing a process like this.
Yeah, they really are. So we'll definitely add a link to the Masterclass training page for everyone today. Now, just to tie things up today, Carls, I'm conscious we're at 32 minutes, so we've got a few more minutes to go. But well, it's all very well reassuring and energizing, but how do we motivate people to want to do the job? They're at home. It's coming up to winter. Everything feels different. What would you say, in your mind, are the tools that will help them get there?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, and there's a lot of things that you can do. I think there's a lot to be said for team bonding, getting people excited about working with their colleagues again, getting people excited about not letting the team down, but also supporting each other and having a shared goal. That's really motivating for sure. And
indeed.
Another thing you can do is actually run a motivations exercise as well. So you can poll your team on what their top 3 motivators are out of a list of 10 motivators, for example. And once you get those back, you can have a look at which of those motivators are likely to be being met for them right now. And it's really interesting to see some people are really struggling because their big motivators, their soft drivers for why they were doing the role, aren't being met at the moment for various reasons. And maybe you think, oh, I don't want to hear the information, but it's so important as an organisation that you do know, and then you can find ways to counter it. And even if you can't counter it right now, to talk to them about it and have that dialogue.
And get it out in the open, because if they feel heard and listened to, then they will feel supported. And actually something that we do at the Maine group, and something that we want to refresh and revive, is not only personal business goal setting, but personal individual goal setting. So what does each individual want to achieve over 6 months, 1 year and 5 years on a personal level? So many people work for different motivations, as Carly's just said, but those motivations will manifest into tangible reasons, such as perhaps writing a book or visiting a certain country. And we know that all of these factors are difficult at the moment, but some of their goals short term will have changed. Somebody may want to do a retrain into yoga as a bit of a hobby or something, so it's really key to have an understanding of your teams, not only as employees and how they add value to your world, but how their role adds value back to them.
Absolutely.
So that you're aligned in helping them achieve their personal and professional goals.
Yeah, reminding people of their why, it's so important because it gives them meaning. And sometimes people have lost that along the way because it's been a case of survival mode. And we want to get back to remembering why you're doing what you're doing. Yeah,
indeed. And knowing the company why and aligning that with the individual why and vice versa is gold. It's so powerful and so effective. we've spoken about the clarity of the role, haven't we? Having the clarity through all of what we've spoken about is key. And then you're able to give feedback, and feedback is so key, because ultimately, if somebody knows what good looks like, then not only does that feedback have to come from a manager to an employee, it could be peer-to-peer feedback.
Yeah, once you become a feedback-oriented organisation and you're constantly encouraging and giving and receiving feedback, it becomes so natural for everybody to just share with each other. It takes away any of the sort of the challenge around it, and it just becomes, people want feedback and they crave feedback, even saying, I haven't had any feedback yet this week and please give me some. And that's a really nice place to be.
Yeah, it really is. Often people think feedback is just negative. It isn't. We talk about magic moments, and it could just be a little thing that one employee notices about another. And we actually have a structure that we recommend for anyone who's thinking about doing feedback, is to say that I have noticed that you've done this and really well done. I feel that if you keep doing that, then that's really going to benefit everyone in a really positive way. And I would like to share that with our wider audience. And so there's an I've noticed, I feel, and I would like to see. And these three little sections can be for both challenging and positive feedback. And again, if you have a structure of feedback, then people don't feel that it's subjective in a challenging way, but it's subjective in a comfortable, objective way.
Yeah, that framework helps everyone to use it, doesn't it? It's brilliant.
So ultimately, something that Carly and I both thought today's webinar was really key to do is to give you, we've just got a question from Helen here. Do you have non-complicated 360 feedback methods? Yes, we do, Helen. Feedback can be as complicated or simple as you want it to be. We are firm believers that the broader the feedback, the more meaningful it is, and we can get in touch and we can talk you through what we feel is a useful process in that space. Carly, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the simpler the better when it comes to feedback. And Helen, what we've actually got is a module from our masterclass all around giving feedback and how to create a framework like that. So we can definitely talk to you about that as well.
Yeah, and these days there's such great tech around getting feedback, so it doesn't all have to be time-consuming, telephone-based. It can be submitted online. It can be a video piece of feedback. It can be a form, and you only need to have potentially one person from each of their customer network, if you like, to give you as an organisation an understanding of how they are being perceived and how well they're doing, and where the gaps are. So yeah, definitely let's talk about that for sure. Carl, in terms of job description, for me, I'm a real believer in that if you get the clarity of what the role should look like and get an agreement with the employees, I loved what you said about the employee input in that. What would you say are the biggest challenges around adopting of job descriptions and making them a useful tool?
I think that's a really key point. I think a lot of the time they're written at the beginning, they're not looked at, they're sort of put in a drawer. I think a great job description is a tool for managing these people, for managing your people. If you refer to the job description regularly, and if they're referring to their own JD regularly as well, it means everyone's on the same page. I think the challenges come when they're either not fit for purpose in the first place, which causes creakiness and anxiety, and then people don't want to look at the job description.
And then what good likes become ambiguous, and that's when the greys creep in, and that's when misunderstandings creep in.
Yeah, absolutely. Clarity with everything is key. But for somebody, a JD is what they're here to do every single day. And if they don't feel they've got clarity around that, that's inevitably going to cause challenges.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we have had a packed 38 minutes of today's webinar. Thank you all for your input, both in the chat box and also in our polls. The stats are the same. Loss of teammates counts for 25% of the reasons why employees have been concerned post-restructure, but the out-and-out biggest concern for employees post-restructure is all around economic uncertainty and job security. And some of that we can change, some of it we can't. But if you can create that clarity and support the change for your people in your organization, then you have a much higher chance of coming out of this successful and thriving.
Absolutely. Just one quick point on that actually is that one thing that if organizations are in any way in a position to say to people, there aren't any more planned redundancies and you can draw a line under it, it's an amazingly empowering thing. I think a lot of people's fear is that there's going to be another wave, and sometimes we don't know, and if you don't know, it's good to share that as well. But if you do know and you have got any clarity you can share, it's a great thing to do.
Wonderful. Well, we'll finish on the point of clarity of communication and partnership with your employees through these really difficult times. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And Carl, thanks for being here. It's been a really great session.
Thanks, Lisa. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Bye, all.